Got some new draft games here. This was from a full draft I participated in with 3 other players, so it's a small turnout. But so we decided to do a full draft, which is neat because you get to draft the Corp and Runner, which really changes things up. So, quick note, my hand is all banged up because I just rode my bike straight into a bush. Like I wasn't even trying to avoid it because I'm an idiot sometimes. Okay. So that explains that. Drawing up some cards. This is my Corp deck. I drafted a cool deck. So you see some interesting cards there. You've got government contracts, a Scorched Earth, a Janus. All that stuff's going to come into play. It's sort of turned into a Wayland deck, sort of, in how I drafted it and how it ended up playing out. And I was pretty happy with it. It was fun to play. At the very least, it was fun to play. Unlike my last Corp drafting, I didn't feel was that fun to play. Like I was just trying to make a super efficient deck, I guess, as best I could. And I think I failed on that as well, but it wasn't that fun to play. So this deck turned out to be really fun to play. So I think I got that might have been a Data Raven installed. I'm not sure what the other one was. And take a credit. So he's got some underworld contacts. He's going to want some link for that. Click an Ice Carver, which is great in this format because if you have Crypsis down, then Ice Carver helps you for almost every piece of ice. It's just kind of like free money. So we just picked up a medium. Glad I iced up R&D, huh? So drew the medium. Puts down the inside man. So he's going to be able to get some hardware installed cheaper. Seeing a lot of cyber feeders in this form. I'm not sure if they're seeding them into the card pool a lot more than usual. But if they're more likely to show up, I guess is what I'm saying. But I see a lot of cyber feeders. So Inside Man's a pretty solid pick if you could get some cyber feeders. I draw Oversight AI. So I do have a 3-pointer in my hand, and the deck had 4 3-pointers. So I do need to score those out. And I like to score them out sooner rather than later. So I need to figure out a way to do that. And it's going to take a few turns to set that up. So I need a secure remote. Alright, so I have a plan this turn. I draw a pop-up window, that's great. So I think my plan was to oversight the Janus. And so I decided I had a free click, so I drew at the start. So I put the Janus down. Janus is not enough to defend for an agenda alone, because the runner can always spend their whole turn clicking through and taking a brain damage. And I can't let the runner steal an agenda that easily, especially when it's a 3-pointer. So I just put I'm pretty sure it's a pop-up window over to R&D. So he draws another underworld contact. He needs some link, and those things will really start paying out. Underworld contact still takes a while to pay back. So I think it's 2 to install, and then not even counting link. So in this form, he needs 2 link. And then once that's all set up, Underworld contact doesn't pay out until the 3rd turn it's used. And that's if you don't even count the click to install it. If you count the click to install, that's at least like the 4th or 5th turn it starts to pay off. I think the reason why Pad Campaign is better than Inside Man is it doesn't have that link requirement or anything equivalent for the Corp. It just needs to be defended as sort of the equivalent. But it still has the high trash cost. So if the runner trashes your Pad Campaign, in a lot of contexts, that's still totally fine, because it costs them 4. So he puts out a medium. That's a curious play, because R&D is the most defended server right now. But it does put a little pressure on me. I got to make sure that he can't get into R&D without a good amount of cost. Alright, so I install something, I oversight the Janus, which I'm sure you don't want to see in draft. You're not expecting those sort of what feel like constructed plays almost. Alright, so what did I put down? It's not the agenda. I'm pretty sure it is a Melange. I drafted 2 Melange, which were pretty pivotal, pretty great pieces of economy. I didn't have that much economy otherwise. So he diesels up. That makes me think he's not going to run on the Janus this turn because he's using clicks. Maybe that's not a Melange. pretty certain it's not an agenda, because I only have one agenda that I would try and score out like that, which is posted bounty. Posted bounty. Alright, so he's just building up some econ. It was just a pad campaign, right? Well, that pad campaign's protected. I think I was trying to get him to bait through the Janus, take a brain damage, waste a turn. And he might not have even had enough to trash a pad campaign after doing that, so he made the right choice. There's a Melange. Would have been way better if that was a Melange there instead of a pad campaign. Alright, that's the Melange, though. So it feels almost like a waste to have the Janus protecting the pad campaign, but that really only costed, a click to install the Janus, a click and a money to oversight it, so it's not too expensive, and I could just keep that pad campaign there for the rest of the game, really, if I don't think I need to leverage that server to score out. Alright, definitely has cyber feeders, and he has the Crypsis down, and a medium, so all he really needs now is some econ. Oh, so there's the Bernice Mai. I just used a Melange this turn. So it costs 1 to res it and net 7, so or give 7, so it nets 6. Alright, now he's under some pressure. He needs to get into that server and trash a Melange. He can't let me trigger that again. The Bernice Mai, I ended up getting one of those, and that was a great card as well. I was surprised at how good that card was. Because I did want to tag I think the tag was just for Scorched Earth. I don't believe I had closed accounts or anything like that. So he takes some money. Puts a Corroder down.
What click was that? Your third? Corroder was 1 quarters.
Alright, so he lets the Melange go. That's always dangerous. Pad campaign pays. Building out some econ here.
Take the mandatory draw.
Got another agenda though, so HQ is a pretty big liability. I decided to use Melange again now that it's up there. Up to a cool 20 credits. It's a lot of money.
Take 3 credits.
So he takes 3 money and he sure gambles. So now we both got money. Something needs to happen. He let the Melange sit again though. At this point he might just be assuming I'm not going to use it again since I have so much money.
Mandatory draw.
And seeing as how I have 2 3-point agendas in my hand, I probably don't want to use Melange again right now. I want to start planning out scoring one of those agendas.
Call for 1.
So I put the Hadrians above the Janus, which should be pretty good protection. Alright, and so I know HQ is where I'm vulnerable, especially as I start installing ice. I'm increasing the density. So now there's, I think, 3 cards in HQ, 2 of which are 3-point agendas. So I really needed to either not install anything to try and increase the density of non-agenda cards, or do what I did, which is ice up and defend more. Alright, gets a scrubber out. Now we could trash assets for cheaper. Now he's going to kill the Melange. He can almost certainly get in. I forget what that ice is. I have a lot of money, so it's almost... Yeah, so I decided to res it. Costs me 4, but it costs him 4 as well. Unfortunately, he has the cyber feeders, so it's only costing him 2.
And the token.
But I need to start draining his resources.
Okay. Okay.
Alright, so he's down a little bit on money. Well, the Hadrians, doing the math, Hadrians would cost him, I think, 7 to get up to strength, 2 to break. So that would cost him a total of 7 with his cyber feeders to get through the Hadrians. And then he also has the Janus where he'd have to take a... So right now he has just enough, I think. He would end up taking brain damage, basically. No, he would need to have 2 extra money. Yeah, it would have been hard for him to get through that server this turn without something like an inside job. So he is deciding to either let me score out the agenda or trying to call my bluff. That I have some sort of June bug there, something. That Janus is 13 for him to break with Crypsis. It would kill it, but that is a lot of money. So I believe that's the government contracts I'll be able to score out, which will fuel my economy into the late game. Because I don't have that pad campaign anymore, and there's another Melange somewhere in there, but it's less likely to pay out as much. So this is really the perfect agenda to score. It's a halfway point to winning the game, and I have reliable economy now while I'm setting up for the second score. He's prepping for a run right here, getting some money, put a virus token on Crypsis. So he wants to try and start building up the medium counters. There's the pop-up. That's good for him in that he doesn't have to use Crypsis token on that. And just a hunter. It's a really cheap server to get through. That is not well defended against medium. I mean, he could just keep running right through that. He doesn't mind taking tags. So he's letting the trace hit.
Let's keep it at a trace 3.
It's just a trace 3, so he's deciding if that's a good number for a tag trace like this, I feel, because some runners will take the tag. Let's say he sees a posted bounty. It's okay, I didn't really need to score that anymore. Yeah, trace 3, I mean, for a runner to spend the 3 credits, that is better, assuming that they have a way to get money at a rate of like 2 per click. Otherwise, you'll see some runners that, like 3 or 4, they'll take the tag and then they'll spend a click and 2 money to clear it because it seems cheaper, even though it's not really. So I take some government contracts. And I really need to do something about R&D because he can just run straight through that.
I am going to install it here for 2.
So I ice up. So my turn is really just to fortify R&D because the money I got from government contracts was spent on installing that ice, and will definitely go towards resing it. But it's a good server against this setup, even with medium, because it is taxing to get through, especially if he doesn't want tags. So I still have 2 3-point in my hand. Now, so the problem is the deck still has another 3-point in it and another 1-pointer. So if he takes both of those, then he can win. Otherwise, if I had another agenda in my hand, then just let him go into R&D, because he'll eventually hit my snare. I do have 1 snare in there, and he can't win in R&D. That is one really cool thing I like about draft is, it depends on your agenda density, but I only had 6 agenda cards in my deck, so I knew exactly which ones were where at any given time. It was very easy to keep track of, and so there was games where I just was not worried about R&D accesses or whatever, because I knew that they couldn't win in that server. Alright, so I drew an anonymous tip, I believe. 1 anonymous tip in there. Just another very sort of Wayland super modernism thing to do.
That was quick.
I'm a big fan of that card, though. I'm not so worried about drawing cards. Oh, I just realized we both forgot about that upgrade on R&D. He forgot to access it, and I forgot to res it.
Let's draw. Okay.
That happens when you don't play with upgrades that much.
And then I'm going to take 4.
Alright, so I just draw up and then do some government contracting. And get rid of... I kind of tell what that was. It might have been... I feel like it might have been a Chum.
Totally forgot about this though. When you got into R&D. Full thing, you were supposed to access it, and I could have risked it. Oh, well.
Yeah.
I don't put upgrades that often, clearly. Yeah. Alright, whatever. First look on R&D.
So at this point...
Okay.
He's going in R&D first click. Res a Caduceus. Which is such a great piece of ice. It's going to be super expensive to get through. So he's looks like he's going to be using Crypsis.
I know. Got a good lead start there.
2 for strength, and he has to Ice Carver, so he's at strength. Yeah, so he spends 2 to break it, and a Crypsis token. And he's at Pop-Up.
No. And you're continuing? Yep. Okay.
I won't forget about this upgrade this time, though.
Okay. And then you're going to trace me.
So he's through the Pop-Up, and he's Len the Hunter Trace.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. And here is
Fire off.
trace. And what click was this? This is my first click. So your first click. Okay. Trace 3.
And I think I still like Trace 3. Might be worth going up 1 or 2 more to help guarantee a tag, especially considering Bernice Mai is there. It also would be good if he spent some money so that Bernice Mai is still triggered and he couldn't trash her.
We'll keep it at trace 3.
So he takes the tag. Oh, don't forget Bernice Mai. Yeah, he's helping remind me.
Yes. So, yes, you are going to access. Just to, okay, I am going to reset, so it's a Bernice Mai. Okay. So, successful run on the server, trace 5. If successful, give the runner attack. If unsuccessful, trash. Okay. So, trace 5, I think you don't have any link, right? Nope. No link. So that's going to hit no matter what. So, trace 5.
So he takes another tag from Bernice Mai.
Okay, so now you access.
And he's deciding what he wants to access first. There's a new ruling recently that if you're doing multi-access, because
Okay, so you look at 2 cards.
you could access the upgrades in any order you want. Like you could access a card from R&D and then the upgrade and then a second card. I don't know why that really matters right now, but that's the new rule. So he trashes the Bernice Mai. Because he has the scrubber, so that makes sense. And he has 2 tags. He did not see an agenda. He saw, I think, another pop-up window there and a C-source.
Okay.
And he just spends his turn taking some Armitage and clearing out the tags.
Leaving with 1 money.
So this is the window I was looking for.
Take the mandatory draw.
Because he is not getting through that Hadrian's, again, without something like an inside job. So it's a pretty safe bet. I could score out this agenda right now. He's at 1 money. I guess 3 with the cyber feeders.
Let's go install, and then advance. Great.
He's probably trying to figure out why he's not seeing agendas in R&D, but it's because they're mostly in my hand. I really like playing with 3-point agendas. It's always exciting. There's a lot of risk. So I pass it over to him. Just install, advance. So he needs to either get into R&D this turn and take the 2 agendas that are in there, or get into this remote, or cause me to spend most of my money so that I can't score this out next turn. Which, I'm covering my money right now. That's smart. But I definitely have enough to res the Hadrians, and I think I have about 5 more on top of that, of which I need at least 3 to score out that. I think that's a priority rec. Note to self to put money somewhere that won't be covered up.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get those fancy overlays eventually. A lot of thinking on this turn. This is the turn where you either win or lose. I think he could get into R&D again. It would cost him only 2 money to get through the Caduceus, basically, because he has a cyber feeder to get to strength, and then he could even let me take the money. So it would really only cost 1 money to get through the Caduceus, 1 for the pop-up. So if he takes credit, run R&D, he could get in. But then you're ending your turn with a tag. But it is like this situation where it's probably you see what looks like an agenda.
Okay.
So he installs Armitage, uses it twice. Then with one more credit than you would have otherwise. I guess the same amount. He started with 1. Yeah, so he could have just taken 3, but the Armitage, if this is some sort of trap I'm trying to bluff him into or something, then having the Armitage out is the better way to do that, because that'll help him next turn. But if you are going to R&D, then you're picking up a tag, and then you're losing Armitage anyway. But it's still better, because the Corp would have to trash Armitage, and that costs him resources. So he's 1 click left, and I think he's contemplating an R&D run here.
Okay. Are you just using Cyber Feeder?
So he breaks the...
And then it's going to cost me something to...
Well, that trashes Crypsis, right?
And he couldn't have a virus token on Crypsis, so he trashes Crypsis on the Caduceus.
Okay. So yeah, this cleared Cyber Feeder, then you're a pop-up.
I do have to pay something to clear cyber.
Might get free.
Another one clear.
Caduceus?
Caduceus.
Well, Ice Card. Oh.
2 to strength. But
Oh,
then I
yeah.
have to, I'll give you the 3 money, but I'll break the number.
So he decides to just let me take the 3 money off Caduceus.
And then pop up.
And then pop up.
One more and pop up.
And then you're going to give me a tag.
And he's going to access 3 cards.
And then you'll get my. Okay, so here's the first.
Nope.
Second.
Pad Campaign
Okay.
and Snare. That is really bad. Really bad luck.
What was that? Yeah,
That was my last one.
okay, I'll trigger it. Sure.
So I was just making sure it was the last click, like he couldn't somehow get into that remote. So I trigger the Snare because I couldn't think of a reason not to.
1, 2, 3. All right, start turn. Pick card.
And so there's actually 2 paths to victory here because he has a tag from the Snare, he has a tag from the Hunter, and there's a Scorched Earth in hand.
Okay, I'll scorch it.
And there's also the agenda to score.
Oh.
So the deck created a lot of opportunities, I think, with some taxing ice for Crypsis, which really was the key.
Like,
I think you want to find ice that Crypsis is going to have a hard time with. Things like Hunter are pretty great because that's really expensive for Crypsis to get through, and it's going to cost some resources to clear. You have to be able to execute on the tag, of course, but having a couple Scorched Earth will do it. And yeah, Hunter's only 1 to res. So that R&D, even though it was pretty easy to get through, well, once I got the Caduceus on it, yeah, it was taxing to get through that. You couldn't keep doing that forever.
5-3 and I lose. So
And that opened up scoring windows on the remote. Anytime you'd go into R&D, it would kind of result in a swing in economy, especially with a pop-up window being there. That's the perfect kind of card to create that type of scoring window. So that is the first game. Next up will be the reverse of this, where I have the runner deck going, so look out for that, and thanks for watching.